Mr. Law, at the same time, community-based providers like Golden West have leveraged the resources provided by the FCC's high-cost program. Congress has allocated billions of dollars to other agencies like NTIA, USDA, and Treasury to support the build-out of broadband services. Unfortunately, many federal agencies like NTIA seem intent on including extraneous requirements such as net neutrality, open access, and burdensome labor requirements in their respective broadband programs. I recently led the majority of my Republican colleagues on this committee requesting NTIA remove these unnecessary requirements from the $42.45 billion Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, or the BEAD program. So my question really is two parts. And the first is, what do you see as the role and key function for the high-cost program and its statutory mission going forward as these grants from other federal agencies are being distributed?
I think first and foremost for the Universal Service Fund is the backstop it plays in rural America to ensure reasonable and comparable, sufficient, predictable, all of those things based really back in the 96 Act in terms of the services that shall be provided to rural and remote communities such as those that Golden West serves in South Dakota. So I think even in the face of a one-time massive effort of deploying, billions, $42+ billion of capital into the broadband market to serve rural areas, USF and the high-cost fund has been the underpinnings of successful deployment, sustainability, and affordability programs for really, in my opinion, the last 20+ years, and I hope and anticipate that it will be for the next 20+ years, irrespective of BEAD or, I'll say, one-time shot funding programs.
Second question on that is, can you speak to the effects of these extraneous requirements from other agencies on providers like Golden West? And for example, does it affect your decision as to whether or not to apply for those types of grants?
Absolutely. And in terms of, I'll say, obviously, we're in the broadband business, so we have a good idea of what it will take to deploy broadband to specific areas, including areas that many parts of this country can't imagine traveling to, and we'll work to get broadband there. However, what we are not experts on are, I'll say, necessarily parameters of programs in terms of guidance for different requirements brought along that come with those specific grants or potentially with those grants. So it necessitates either adding additional expertise within our firm, within our company, or hiring it. All of those items, or either of those items, layer cost. The other is the compliance risk that comes with it. I would like to think Golden West would never put itself, I'll say, at risk in terms of any type of compliance item. If there's a rule or something that comes along with receiving of funds, we wish to follow that, and it would be our intent to do that. At the same time, the forward-looking risk of what if, the what ifs for the many requirements that come with some of these grant funds make it questionable for smaller providers if we'll be really willing to participate. Certainly that's for Golden West.
Thank you. Professor Lyons, in your testimony, you discussed some of the shortfalls in the Lifeline program, particularly around the lack of developed metrics by the FCC to know whether or not the program is effective in getting broadband services to low-income Americans. For years, I've called upon the Commission, both under Republican and Democrat leadership, to undertake a fundamental analysis of the program to determine if the program has been an effective means of increasing subscribership among low-income consumers. To date, has the FCC conducted this sort of analysis? And if they haven't, what are the practical effects on actually closing the digital divide?
No, it hasn't, and I think that's a big issue that goes all the way back to the telephone era of Lifeline. The GAO has consistently asked the FCC to do a study to show that the dollars that they're spending are actually reaching families that would otherwise be at risk of losing service. When the GAO prompted the FCC in 2015, the FCC responded with two studies, private studies, that in fact, one of which indicated that up to 88% of Lifeline money was being spent on families that were at no risk whatsoever of dropping off the network. Now, that study had a few problems, but it points out the fact that it's quite possible the vast majority of that spending is being wasted in the sense of it is not in pursuit of the goal of closing then telephone penetration rates, now broadband adoption rates.
And are you similarly concerned that the Affordable Connectivity Program has not been an effective means of closing the digital divide?
I am, or at least I'm concerned that we haven't studied whether it is or not. So the affordable connectivity programs eligibility requirements are even broader than Lifeline. It includes any family that's earning over 2x the federal poverty line. The most recent Pew Research data shows that within families who earn less than $35,000 a year, which I think is a good proxy for that, 57% have home broadband and 76% have a smartphone at home. So that suggests that the majority of those who are eligible already receive funding. Now, we've heard quite a bit, I think, about ACP's burn rate, right? The fact that the initial allocation, it's starting to run out. I don't know whether it's true or not, but to the extent that it is a concern, it's an argument in favor of, I think, tightening up the eligibility requirements to make sure that the money that's been allocated and is being spent is going to those families that are either unconnected or at severe risk of losing their connectivity absent the subsidy.
Okay. My time is up. I think we've got Senator Tester on remotely. Might be another question for the panel, and I'd like to direct to Mr. Law, but if I don't get a chance to do that, I'll submit it for the record. Senator Tester.